thank you so much for joining us. We are joined today by Weam Namou, who is a Chaldean filmmaker born in Baghdad, who immigrated to the United States at the age of 10. Weam has won an Eric Koff Award for writing 16 books. She's also an author as well as a filmmaker. She's an international multi-award-winning filmmaker, journalist, and poet. She's written 2 feature films, which have earned a dozen awards in festivals all across the world. And one of which is, we'll talk about it in a little bit, a feature film called Pomegranate, which is the first Iraqi American feature film led by women talent. What can you tell us about yourself a little bit, Weam?
Yeah, so I was born in Baghdad, Iraq, and we left when I was 9. We went to Jordan to come here because you couldn't get a visa directly from Iraq to come to the United States. And during this period, I always love to tell the story of somehow we had a book around Gone with the Wind and in Arabic, and I read that book from page to page, over 1,000 pages, and then I was so enthralled by the characters of Gone with the Wind, like Scarlett O'Hara, and the whole setup of how they did things. And in some ways it felt like my community. It was like those naps after lunch and these extravagant gatherings and such. And then my family took me to the first film I ever watched in a movie theater, which is Gone with the Wind in Arabic with English subtitles. And that was my impression of what I was going to see when I came to the United States. So I arrived and I didn't see no horse carriages and I didn't see the puffy dresses.
No.
And, I was disappointed. I'm looking around thinking, this is not the 1800s, and Michigan is not like Atlanta, Georgia in the 1800s. So there was so much adjustment to happen, and it was a culture shock, honestly. And we grew up here over the years, and then it's just we assimilated and acclimated. I think my father and my brother, the men in my family, actually really wanted us to assimilate to the American way of life, because they felt like this is why we left Iraq, is because of the oppression. So they wanted us to experience what America was like. And so I only found out later that I had a lot of freedoms that other girls maybe from my background did not have.
So how did you get into filmmaking?
Well, so I wasn't intending to go into film, but I'm a storyteller, and I started writing books in order to tell our stories. And so I was very interested just in telling Iraqi American stories. Actually, the audience that I was reading to, whether it was my editors or agent, they just loved the stories that I was sharing. They were very different. They're not the stereotypical type of stories where you're kind of focusing on the negativity. I bring in a lot of the humor and the ethnic things that people don't know unless you go into our homes and kind of like see for yourself. And so that was my interest. But over the years, I found that it was very difficult to break into, whether it was the book industry or the film industry, with the kind of stories that I wanted to tell. Yeah. Because there was no honor killing in them. There was none of the things that like people are accustomed to, the audiences are. And so I realized that in order for me to tell authentic stories, I would just have to do things myself. And so I went to film school for a year, and a full-time film school.
That's amazing. And it's so important to hear the stories around your community, because they're just, they're not getting told. What struggles have you encountered on that way?
Well, yeah, they're if you look at other minority groups, they feel like they're minority. They feel like their stories are not told, but it's really, in comparison to us, their stories are being told. Like, we're really at the bottom of the list of especially with regards to women. And for like the Black community, the Jewish community, all the other communities have had the chance to tell their stories, and the Asian community have been able to share their stories in some way or another, and very successfully, very beautifully. And I've been inspired by these filmmakers, and the writers. But in our case, that hasn't been so. And there's two reasons for that. One is our own community. So we come from an area really where creativity is not encouraged. It's
Mm.
in some cases even outlawed. You don't have freedom of speech. It's not encouraged to be creative or go into this field at all. And so by the time we come here, you're on a survival phase, and you're just kind of you're struggling, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to find your way. And you don't really find that there are others that have walked before you that can kind of help lift you up from your own community. And we have this tendency of not, I think, not sharing our stories authentically. It's a little bit of a struggle because we're used to kind of not telling things to the outside world. We come from a very tribal mentality. So that's part of the challenge. The other part is then you have the Western side where they have a certain viewpoint of you, and it's hard to get them to see authentic stories because you're either like the stories that I had seen. One time I was at Heathrow on a transit at Heathrow Airport, and I went into a bookstore and saw these books all about these women that were veiled, that were running away from either a husband or a brother or somebody that was abusive, and they were all written by Western authors. And I thought, that's not the entire Middle East. That's not how everybody lives. On the other side of the coin, this was in the mid 1990s. On the other side, you have the side where it tells you that, oh, well, all women that are wearing hijabs is like something, it's either exotic or it's something, they give it all these kind of definitions that also they make it like something that's mystified. And that's also a perception that's not necessarily a reality. So what I have tried to do, seeing that the lack of our stories, our authentic stories being out there, I just really stayed committed to that path of sharing our stories, whether through books, whether through films, a documentary. I just try to stay true to that. And it's not trying to show just the good or the bad, but really just a realistic story of what we have, which, by the way, happen to be really interesting. We have great stories out there. It's just like we don't have the people that are telling them.
Yeah, it's so incredibly important to get those authentic stories. That's how we grow as a culture. That's how we grow as people, is seeing that things that you don't experience on a daily basis. I love that. You mentioned before we started recording that you were also the executive director at the Chaldean Center.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? The Chaldean Cultural Center. How
How
did
did
you
I get? Well, it's not something that I wanted to get into. So I was the chairperson called me in 2019 and said, have you been to the Chaldean Museum? It's the world's first and only Chaldean museum. And I said, no, I haven't. And she invited me to come, and I really liked her, and they were looking for an executive director. And I was thinking, oh no, I'm, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, there's no way I'm gonna like do this work, because there was a lot of things happening in my life at that time. And I just was wanting to focus on writing and filmmaking. I was actually working on Pomegranate. I think it was around that time that it was selected quarterfinalist by Francis Coppola's Zoetrope. So I really wanted just to focus on that. But then they asked me, we started working together with the Chaldean Cultural Center, where they wanted to screen my film, my feature documentary, which we did that. We did a community screening. It was a big success. And, we developed a relationship, and it dawned on me that, I love writing, and I also love being of service somehow. And I thought, well, this is what it is. I mean, this is kind of an opportunity to take what I know and to serve my community with it. And so I accepted the job for that reason, and I've been with them since. And it's been very enriching, because along the way, I learned so much about my own heritage through the process. And every time I enter that museum, we have 5 galleries, and the first gallery is the Ancient Gallery. And every time I enter that, and I feel like I'm walking into, this like back in time to the Sumerians and the Akkadians and the Chaldeans and Babylonians. And it just gives me, I don't know, it keeps me rooted or grounded into who I am, I think, as a person.
And that's located in Michigan?
It's located in Michigan, yes. And that's what I was telling you, that if you ever come here, then you can see the Chaldean Museum, and then you get to see our areas, which I was mentioning. It's nicknamed, the city that I live in is nicknamed Little Baghdad, and this is where we shot Pomegranate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's wonderful that you get to live in an area where it's so rich in your culture.
Yeah, it is. It does feel good that, because then you are, you feel like you have that part of you that's like the Iraqi Chaldean part, that and then you're really American at the end of the day, though, that your ancestral part is just in your heart. There's always going to be a love for that, and I think it's always good to know your roots. But at the end of the day, you're American. And then I think in this country, what's wonderful about it is that you can enjoy both parts of who you are, and some more than two parts for a lot of people.
You've clearly done a lot with your life. You're also you lead a half-hour TV show. You're the founder of the Path of Consciousness, spiritual writing community. What got you into the writing community? Because you've also, like we said it before, you're the author of 16 books. That's not a small amount of books.
Yeah, and I was writing a lot of these. My first book was released right around the time I was getting engaged. And so the span of time where I did the majority of my work, where it was like releasing most of the work, I had just gotten married. I have two beautiful kids. I have a beautiful dog as well. He's
What's his
my
name?
Teddy. And so I was doing a lot of things. I took care of my mom during that time, but I think I don't know if you've ever heard of Lynn V. Andrews.
I'm not.
No, okay. Well, she was she's a mystic. She's a best-selling author of the Medicine Woman series, and she was my teacher for quite a few years. I studied under her, and she taught mysticism, and she, I think, really helped open my eye to work and to spirituality and the sacred feminine in a way that I really think empowered me to be more productive, but yet have a balanced life. I tried to give back through that way, because earlier you were saying the importance of telling our stories so that people can understand, and it's like the power of that. But I really think it's also very healing, like for us as a community, for the people that were on the set, whether the Middle Easterners or the non-Middle Easterners. I think there was so much healing that was happening for ourselves, that when we were doing what we were doing, we were really stretching ourselves to play the roles that we were playing. And it was a low budget film, and everybody was doing their best, knowing the importance of this film historically, creatively, as a film that was empowering women. So we were giving it our best. And I think in that process, something changes inside of you when you're working on something that meaningful, and it changes you. So you're really being healed at the same time. And my teacher, Lynn, who passed away last year, unfortunately,
So
but
sorry.
yeah, and we called her a Beverly Hills girl. She was from Beverly Hills, and she later moved to Arizona, but she taught a lot. And I think her teachings were very valuable to help not just myself, but many see that how you can, what she used to call choreograph energy, so that you can be productive and live the life that you want. And I really care about these topics, so that, and when I get involved in that kind of work, the beautiful side of it is that really it transcends ethnicity, race, everything, who you are. It just, on a human level, you connect with spirit to the point where it's just you and God and what you produce in the world.
Be the best that you can be.
Be the best you can be. Yes.
The betterment of all in society.
Yes. Yes, that's pretty beautiful.
Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about your TV show? You run a half-hour weekly TV show. What is that about?
Um, well, I think everything that I've done is basically probably for the same purposes that I see that there's anytime I see there's difficulty in breaking into something, then I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start this. It's easier to start something than to try to break in. And
Preaching to the choir.
it's just like, I'm just gonna start a TV show and to express things. Or I'm surrounded, by the way, with amazing people, very talented people that we would sit and talk over coffee, just like the way we're talking right now, for instance. And I would think, this should be recorded somehow. You guys are saying great things. We're sharing a wonderful conversation. People can benefit from this. And so I started this show that later evolved to where when I worked with the Chaldean Cultural Center, it was just hard for me to juggle so many things. So then we combined the show that it's CMN TV in collaboration with the Chaldean Cultural Center, University of Michigan Detroit Center, and Unique Voices in Films, which is a nonprofit that I started. So then it really it became a lot bigger because of all these different collaborations. And because of COVID, I know that, there's so many negative things that happened, but at the same time, COVID allowed us where we were able to reach people all over the world. I've interviewed people from all around the world in Australia, Italy, England, Iraq, everywhere, just about they're usually filmmakers, writers, archaeologists, historians, people that really bring something valuable to the table. And it's because of the internet. And after what happened with COVID, the studio we were able to move it on via like a StreamYard online platform.
That's really cool. So you see a need, you see something that you want to break into, and you do it. And so that's how you got into feature film writing. You've written 2 films, one of which is now titled Pomegranate. And you mentioned before that it's actually already won some awards. What can you tell me about it?
So I want to show off these 2 trophies that I got from La Femme for Best Original Picture, feature script, sorry. And they also, this other one, which is, and they're heavy and they're very beautiful. This is they're in Paris, France, but this is for Best Feature Film. And there was another award for Outstanding Actress. Supporting actress. She got an award as well in the film. I gotta tell you, I think winning the award for these films, we really put our heart into it. It's about a Muslim girl who lives in a fairly conservative area across the street of a Chaldean girl and her family. And these girls, they're young, they're sassy, they're beautiful, they're smart, and they're one thing I do in my stories is that the women or the characters, whether male or female, they're not victims. They just have their own stories to tell. And you will see when you watch the film that these girls are so smart and they have these conversations that nowadays people try to prevent you from having real authentic conversations because of this whole thing, of fear. If you're a different political party or if you're a certain religion, you can't say this or you can't say that. Well, these girls basically say what they want to say to each other. And I think that this is how it should be for everybody, honestly. Again, coming from a very oppressive regime, the last thing you want to do is, just interfere with freedom of speech.
Yeah.
It's a very, very valuable thing. And I think people have no clue unless you come from a certain region, how sacred something like that is.
So what was the filming like? So going from script to screen. What was
a
the
lot of work.
process
So
like?
I gotta tell you, so the film, was really once it was selected quarterfinalist, I had a couple of people, and including Buffalo 8, which is based in Santa Monica, California. They partnered with me for the development stage. And then Scott Rosenfeld, the producer of Home Alone and Mystic Pizza, when he heard about the film, he was very interested in it and he became our executive producer. And he said, one of the things he said is that as he tries to help independent filmmakers, he feels like they have something important to say, and he saw this in this story. And one thing that he was surprised by when he read it was the humor. He said, I really wasn't expecting. Sometimes, he said, sometimes independent films will get too heavy, too serious, and that tends to maybe lose the audience or defeat the purpose. He said, but I really enjoyed that yours had this kind of humor that was like similar to My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where we could, yes, the story is so meaningful, but you're not just, you have all this humor, which, by the way, to me wasn't difficult to do, because when you come to our homes, this is the kind of things that you see, especially from immigrants or like refugees, because there's a lot of things that they don't know about the new country. And so I think if you're playful about it and you do it authentically, and it comes out just beautiful. I mean, we all had so much fun filming these scenes. But so Scott Rosenfeld came on board. We have our producer is Sam Sacco. He flew in from LA. He's been there for like over 40 years. And then we had different actors from different states. Actually, the supporting actress who also won the award, she is in California as well. And the rest were locals. Our crew was mostly like local. I think what was important, we were what they call a skeleton crew, I guess, where we didn't have it was during COVID, by the way. So that was necessary to begin with. Okay.
Yeah.
But what we had that was important is that we had a couple of veteran filmmakers that just made sure to be on top of everything. They knew this was my first feature film. And I got to tell you, I mean, their input was just amazing. Like Sam Sacco, our cinematographer, Kevin Hewitt, our editor, Jamal Adams. And these are the guys that really supported us women. They were really rooting for us. And until after the film was shot and as we were editing, they never let go of the project. They were just always there, always rooting for us, making sure, like, I'm not burnt out, even though I was on many occasions. It was a lot of work, but it's really worth it. I think when we started winning awards, we finished in March. We started submitting. We didn't start hearing back, I would say, until August. All of a sudden, we were getting a flood of emails about getting awards. There was a lot of semi-finalists, quarter-finalists, a lot of nominees and stuff like that. But I think this one award with the La Femme, this was a very special one because they gave 3 awards, and they were writing reviews and articles and such. And it was at that point that I kind of felt some kind of, some weight kind of dropped, that, oh, I think the project is pretty much done. It's just now it's going off to a streaming platform for everybody to watch. That's
Which platform?
We will soon find out very soon.
We'll find out. Okay.
Yeah, Scott is working on that aspect. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
I was gonna say that's one of the things that I'm so excited about in this new era of film that we're getting into. We've been personally, I feel like we've been stuck in a superhero phase for so long. We're just big on franchises, and we're burnt out. We want independent stories. We want truth. We want honesty. We just want to see beautiful stories that are told from people like you. And we want to see the world and see the people that are living in the world. And these are the kind of stories that are going to shift us into that new era. I think it's going to be good. And you're going to help lead us in that direction.
Well, and it's, I mean, how many countries do you get to do that? Like, for me to write the story that I wrote and that we put out there, let me tell you that, I wouldn't have been able to do that in my birth country, unfortunately. So I'm so grateful. I think when my dad, who had a lot of girls, he had boys, he had more girls than boys. He had 7 girls and 4 boys. And he really wanted his daughters to enjoy the freedom, and he knew we come from a very, his sisters and his mother and grandmother, they were very, very smart women, and he wanted something special for us. And I think when I see where I am, even though during the process sometimes it feels like it does sometimes feel like, are you going to get anywhere, or why are you doing this? But then it just takes like a couple of days, whatever it may take, and then you're back on your feet again, because you know in this country there is that possibility, because you've seen the story again and again and again. And so you realize, like, why not me? All I have to do is put in the work, have the faith, and just keep moving forward. Suddenly you start seeing people that are surrounding you that are not letting you drop. Scott, like I would be some nights thinking like, well, should we postpone this? And I'll get a call from Scott. No, this is not that serious that you need to postpone it because of this actress is no longer available. Or I'll get a call from the cinematographer. I'll get a call from, and I knew that they, for them to care that much and to make sure that this got done. And by the way, it's very interesting, the topic, because the woman has to make some decisions, the main character, about the life she wants to lead here in the United States. It was very interesting that when I wrote it, I honestly, my main thing was that this is during the 2016 election, when everybody was kind of getting on each other's nerves, and everybody was battling it out between, the Democrats and the Republicans. And so that was a part of the focus of the story. And the other part is the girl wanting her independence. Then later, all these things happened around the world where women were wanting their independence, wanting their empowerment in a way that was just like, wow, this movie is very timely. And so, like my teacher Lynn always used to say, there's a time for every story. When I used to tell her, well, when my story, I feel like this or that, she's like, there's a time for every story. Just write it, do your best, and let it go and see where it goes. And I think this one is having wings of its own, and is just kind of flying, and it's going to land in the right place. It's been landing in the right places.
That's amazing to hear. That is the hardest thing to do when you create something, is just to let it live its own life. Because you want to hold on to it, you want to control it, you want to make sure that it goes to the right places, but you have to let it go.
You have to, because otherwise you really go crazy thinking like you can control it, because some of the things came. I remember when we uploaded the trailer, we uploaded it and everybody was giving different feedbacks. Well, it should have been, and I said, it's out, done, like, don't think about it. Days later, we're checking something and we're seeing the numbers go up, and now it's like at 3.3 million. And we thought, you know what, sometimes the best thing is just, you have to let it go. And we had a lot of people, they were so caring, this was in a good way. It's not that the matter of just being controlling, but they really wanted the best for the film. So then some of the people that didn't get to see the trailer before I approved it, they said, well, and I said, just let it go. Like, whatever happens is too late. It's up there. I'm not taking it down. And now it's 3.3 million views. And I thought, well, you know what? It's just, you have to just trust in the process. And even with the actors, when they were here, they said, with the budget that we had, by the way, we stayed on schedule. I don't know, some of the things, I don't know how they happened, but they happened. We stayed on schedule.
That's its own feat in itself.
Yes, we had a 13-day shoot that was done in 14 days.
Wow.
And the actors would try to get like more scenes. I don't think I did. I said, you're fine, just let it go. And everybody would go home wondering, like, did I do this? Did I, but with me, I just felt, because I could see it and I lived with this story for so long. I ended up, I think what helped me also direct, what I decided to do between the time that we got the actors, between the time we cast the actors, I wrote a book. I love writing books. I think this is the one thing I really like. It's very meditative for me. So I wrote a book based on Pomegranate so that I can get closer to the characters, and so that when I commute, and I had all the actors read them, the novel. I felt like when the time came to give them direction, it was easier for me to do so because I had lived with the novels are much more detailed than a script.
Yeah.
And so the detail that I put in the book, I was able to communicate more easily what I wanted from them. I want you to feel this way. I want it to be this way. It was very, very clear. And I think writing the book helped me have that relationship with them. It was also, based on what they told me, it helped them as well. And I just want to say one more thing about just the situation of this film. When we were casting actors, this was during COVID, so we were able to do everything through Zoom. I was just looking for the right person. I wasn't looking for what their backgrounds were. And as long as, even if they were not Middle Eastern, if they looked Middle Eastern, that was okay too. So just by the grace of God, the main person, the actress that we found, which by the way, she also won an award previously. After we saw her and I said, this is who I want. When we were auditioning her, I found out she's Iraqi and that she's Muslim in real life. And same thing with her mom. And so the Muslim family that lived across the street from the Chaldean family, the Muslim family was all Muslim and the Christian family was all Christian. And I tell you, this was not planned at all. This was
meant to be.
It was meant to be.
It's meant to be.
So yeah, and that's why, this story, I think after 30 years of me writing and stuff, it's the one story that I just think it clicked with the audience. It clicked with the audience, and it clicked with the big players, like Scott and Sam Sacco in LA, and a lot of people were in Buffalo 8. A lot of people were coming on just naturally into this project, and we'll see where it goes. So
it's going to go to great places, and we're going to put the link to the trailer on this post, so anybody seeing here can go and watch it. Send it to all your friends. We've got about 2 minutes left. If there's anything inspirational that you want to say to the young filmmakers, the people that are trying to do what you're doing, what would you tell them?
Just use discipline for this. It's work like anything else. I mean, just know why you're in it and just stick to it, and just make sure that you have a job on the side so that you don't feel the pressure of what's going to come back from it until you get to a different place. So just really stick to it and do the work. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of patience, but you have to, if you really love yourself, and that you will give yourself the work and you will give yourself the patience.
Love it. We're about out of time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this space where I was able to share my story. Thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure. You have a wonderful night, and I'm gonna go watch the trailer because I haven't gotten to see it yet.
Okay, watch the trailer, and then when you're in Michigan, let us know. Okay.
I will.
Okay, you take care. Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.